I really do believe that you don't fully understand your job until at least year 1, 2. And depending on what type of responsibility you have, sitting with the application engineers and asking them to let me listen to calls when they were problem solving and working with my colleagues to listen into how they were talking with their partners.
Isn't that crazy? As you're explaining that, I'm thinking about the work environment today, how much we learn around each other.
I think that there are certain things where I think that if you're established and you have the right resources, you can, but there's still a human element that you need. One of the things that we're having this big build out for is how we're going to train salespeople within the Ambient family. And we were polling people and asking.
Meet Holly Montrose, the Senior Vice President of Sales Operations at Ambient Enterprises, also an associate member of ASHRAE with over 10 years of experience in the HVAC, healthcare, manufacturing, environmental, and chemical industries.
Holly blends deep technical knowledge with sales leadership and also drives innovation, growth, and value across the HVAC landscape.
Mentorship is really interesting because I do love that big companies like an ABB really value mentorship. In fact, they created an entire program for it. And I love that because it gave the opportunity for people to meet, but I don't think that mentorship necessarily has to be so formal.
I would take the culture over talent that could be nurtured over time.
People over experience. I know that sounds silly, but that's actually how I got started.
Here's a question for you. I have a theory that the company culture's positivity is directly proportional to how many people have their camera on.
I think that
someone told you would be in Midtown Manhattan in a podcast studio on the first episode of HVAC On-Air. What would you have said?
I probably would have laughed a little bit, like an awkward chuckle. What am I going to talk about? And get all sweaty. I think what you do has always been incredible to participate in something like this, and especially the maiden voyage of HVAC On-Air. Man, what an honor. I'm so excited. I wouldn't have believed it, honestly. I would have thought you were pulling my leg.
I'm honored to have you. And you and I have similarly just started new careers with Ambient Enterprises. So let's talk a little bit about that first so people know, since this is the first episode, HVAC On-Air. And our mission here is to educate and empower the HVAC community. And I think of that in two sections, like the education part is the obvious, the technical aspects of HVAC, which we need to know the important things like applications and product differences, codes and standards. But then there's the empowerment side, which is more of the human side. Right. We all struggle with the same things other people do. And I look at the HVAC, it's like the thing that ties us together. It kind of gives us that common bond and gives us that community.
There's also the element of ever changing in the industry too. And so the technical piece, a lot of it stays relatively the same. But the human element, the environment, the design choices, the emerging segments, that is always going to change. And so I think that's where you being so involved and so expressive about that evolution is really going to help people start adapting a little bit faster. I mean, things change faster than ever now. So sharing that, giving that education and these little digestible snippets are so valuable for people. Data center market alone is going to change the way that we talk. Just 2 years from now, we're not going to talk the same. We're going to have a lot more concise or focused information that we don't even know exists today. So that's where this is so important. The technical pieces are always going to be important, and keeping it, it's the KISS, right? Keep it simple, stupid. I need those little nibbits that you give out, the simple go-to know-with-alls that if you're an expert in one product, you would know very well. But if you're the jack of all trades, you might not know some of the more efficient processes that you explain sometimes. So I'm excited to see what HVAC On-Air does. I mean, I think it's really going to change the education portal. I think people are going to come to this and bring more questions, and you're going to have a job forever until you die.
Let's talk about Ambient first. So people know that HVAC On-Air is brought to the community by Ambient, which is where we work. So how would you explain what Ambient is to somebody?
I like to believe Ambient's an engineering community support system. We are a collective of HVAC manufacturers representatives across the country. Our partners are responsible for really making sure that they're supporting their local area of responsibility in the best way possible. They're talking with engineers and they're working with the contractors and they're evolving their strategies, and Ambient's here to support their growth. How can we help you make more money, essentially? Also, how do we improve the experience for all of your customers? Because at the end of the day, Ambient really looks at their customers locally as our customers, nationally as well. So they're equally important at this level as they are in the local market to them.
Right. And you and I started with Ambient.
I think 2 days apart, something like that. You started at the end of September and I started October 1. So it was a really fun transition. And we followed the footsteps of other Tony name drop, Tanzillo.
Hey, he's intense, isn't he?
He is intense is a fun word, but like I mean, that is a self-proclaimed intensity.
Yeah.
I think he is more passionate. I feel like intensity feels
Very much so.
like aggressive. He's just really passionate. He cares. The other part about Ambient that I love watching is that we're really starting to listen to the manufacturers and seeing how, as a collective, we can support their growth as well. And I think that's another cool thing about HVAC On-Air is we're going to have the opportunity to really just showcase the advancements in technology through our manufacturing partners, through our local partners, through the engineering community. I mean, we're doing a lot at Ambient. We're keeping it fresh.
And I love to work for a place that values this kind of thing too. So
I mean, how lucky are we?
we're very lucky. So let's talk a little bit about you and your journey. So you're the senior VP of sales operations at Ambient. That is no small thing. That's a big deal.
I'm going to give another name drop. Shout out to Maureen for my incredibly epic title because it comes with so much. I have so many important things that I get to focus on now. Love the playing the game. Who would have thought? I mean, I started off as a chemistry major. I worked for a chemical manufacturer right out of college.
How did you get into chemistry, first of all? And one of the things, before you answer that, focus on, because we have the unique opportunity to delve inside the mind of a woman in our industry. And I was going to say it's a male-dominated industry, but even just saying that sounds doesn't sound right.
It is like the nomenclature that we all love to use all the time, but I don't know if it's being dominated anymore. It's just the majority of members in our community.
Statistically speaking, there's more men than women.
There we go. Statistically speaking.
And let's drop a little bit of information here. So I did a LinkedIn poll the other day.
Okay.
I polled at least my LinkedIn followers. Yeah. Are you a man or a woman, basically? And it was 12% women and the rest men, which kind of tracks the data that I see for the industry. Like when we were at the party last night, my wife's like, yeah, there are a lot of men in this industry, right? So I would say 10 to 15%, not just HVAC, but like construction in general, are men. Yeah. So before you answer the chemistry question, the reason I was bringing this up is I'd love to hear it from your journey, like from a female's perspective. Because honestly, I've never talked to, I would never go up to a girl or a woman in our industry and be like, right, how's it feel to be a woman around all these men? Like, I don't know what to say. I don't even know if I should ask that question or not.
I mean, I think it has to be in the right setting. But if another woman was to approach another woman and be like, hey, what's it like being a female in this industry? I think it's one thing. But when you've got a man coming up to you and you're like, he's like, why are you here?
Right. In a corporate setting, it's weird.
That's how it kind of translates. Whether that was the intent or not, it kind of translates like, why?
But that's the beauty of a podcast setting. There's something about this media that allows you to kind of take your corporate hat off and get like down to the nitty gritty stuff. So I want to hear some good stories. That's what I'm trying to say.
So you wanted to know how I got into chemistry? Right. I'll give a very short version of it. Okay. So I grew up, my father is an electrical engineer. And so I was conditioned to be some form of engineer. Problem solving, tinkering, like breaking things apart and reassembling them. I also had to make very conscious decisions when I needed my dad's help with things, because if I ever asked dad, I would end up in the basement with a whiteboard for like 4 hours in 7th grade learning calculus.
That sounds like an engineer, by the way. Electrical
engineer too.
Yeah, right.
Then I knew I wanted to do something in the sciences. I just always knew that. And as I started getting closer and closer to graduating high school, I got to take an AP chem class. And it was just really my happy spot. You liked it. I loved it. Yeah. So I actually didn't pick chemistry. I picked chemical engineering because I was an engineering house. So you had to go that route. And when I got to college, my first couple of years, while I did love it, I found myself wanting to be in the lab more than like doing all of the engineering pieces. Like we built robots. That wasn't the chem piece. I was just really wanting to get my hands into the chemistry portion. So I switched gears. And when I finished my degree, I moved into a company that did, well, how's the best way of playing it? They're a chemical manufacturer. They've since then been bought by another major chemical manufacturer. But I was a lab technician. And
what were you doing there? What were they making?
I was a lab tech, and we worked on commercial grade solutions. So cleaning, water quality, a lot of cleaning products. So like laundry detergents, hand soaps, car wash formulations, like different types of solvents and solutions.
And you're actually in the lab with a gown, and
I had my lab coat.
Yeah.
But I was.
Do you like that, or?
I loved part of it. There was a big piece that I loved. The part that I really struggled with was it was myself and 2 other people. And so when we were all in our zones accomplishing tasks, it was just me.
And from what little I know about you, you're kind of a social.
What? No.
Yeah.
Really? Is that
For
how you
real.
describe it? Yeah.
For real. Especially after a few,
This is becoming a
drinks.
theme. Oh, for sure. Yeah. Then I'm best friends with everybody. I know everyone.
Right.
So when I was working for this company, though, I was headhunted by the company my father was working for at the time. So I ended up taking a job at Intel. I love giving shout outs. And like, I'm not sure if this mentor will ever watch this or see this, but one of my very first mentors who I worked for at this chemical manufacturer, his name was Jeb. When I told him the opportunity and I was giving him my pros and cons, he was like, don't be ridiculous. You will always carry the knowledge that you learned here. You will always have our support, but you've got to keep moving if that's what you want to do. So I did. And I went to Intel. Now here's the common theme coming around. I spent 2 years there as an engineering technician. I was working compressed work weeks, nights, in the clean room. So in like the bunny suit. Remember those commercials with like the people in the bunny suits? By myself.
Not my jam. Not your thing.
No. Yeah. And that's when I was 25, I think.
And how soon after that did you start? And you were like, was it pretty instant or was it a while?
I lived the first year with no issue.
Because it's exciting. You're in a new job. It's Intel.
And you're still learning. Like I really do believe that you don't fully understand your job until at least year 1, 2. And depending on what type of responsibility you have. So year 1 was still learning. But what kind of kept me motivated was I got the opportunity to learn a new tool. So that changed it for me. So I had a little bit more of a dynamic mix up, but still nights by myself in a clean room under the fluorescent lighting. So by the end of year 2, when I wasn't really sure there was much more direction for me to go other than learning another tool, which is the same thing, just a different one, I knew it was time for a change.
So how do you know that? That's a theme we can kind of touch on a little bit here because you and I recently made a change and we're focusing on your journey to where you are now, which is completely different than where you started, right?
Completely different. Like again, if you would have said 10, 15 plus years ago that you'd be doing what you do now as this little recently graduated kid from college focusing on chemistry, checking boiler water quality. Again, I would have laughed and been like, I have no idea how you think I'm getting there.
I could relate. I mean, me sitting here, so I don't know if you know this or not, I have a chemical engineering degree.
You did chemi?
Yeah.
You know Chris did too.
Did you really?
Yeah. Here we are.
I think I do remember that. Yeah. So it's funny. So I think part of this, as we go through this podcast here is like where you start doesn't necessarily mean where you have to stay. And it's funny, you got to look for those signs. You don't want to bail on a career immediately, but I'm getting better. I'm getting better. I'm 54 now. I'm not like a spring chicken, but I'm getting better at realizing, okay, this is going to be what it is. Yeah. And that's okay.
I don't think it's bailing either, though.
Yeah. That's a good point.
I think when you finally get to that point, there has to, you've already done, whether it's like conscious or not, you've done your own recall of what you've accomplished or what you still have left to accomplish. And you start assessing whether or not you can do that there. So I don't know if I would call it bailing. You've already gotten what you needed out of it. I think everything happens for a reason.
You want to grow.
Yes.
You want to do something different.
Exactly.
And there's nothing wrong with not doing that.
Right. Well, maybe that's what your goal was, though.
Right.
So I think that's
every day. Yeah.
That's the hard part for people when you see people make changes and they're like, why would you do that? I think you have to understand that everyone's journey is going to be very different from each other, even when it looks the same. So, I mean, chemies starting as chemies. And I think we also probably learned a lot from being in that environment of the things that we liked and the things we didn't like, which is why I switched from chemi to chem. So that's right. Not that I didn't love chemi. It's just I liked chem more.
I get it. So you leave Intel. When are you getting? Is this where you go into HVAC?
This is the moment that I enter HVAC. Okay. I actually will do shout outs all day. I love a shout out. So
go for it, girl.
Andrew Murphy.
Am I supposed to say that?
Yeah,
go for it, girl.
Go, girl. Get it, girl. I have a shirt that says "Get it, girl." So my now husband played football at the University of Oregon with a guy named Andrew Murphy, who is part of the Johnson Barrow family up in the Pacific Northwest.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And I was having one of my existential crisis moments of what is life? What is my purpose? What am I doing here? I'm miserable. It just wasn't.
This was at Intel.
At Intel. I just knew that I wasn't, this isn't it anymore. This wasn't it. I learned what I needed to learn here. It's time to move on. But I was so worried that because I didn't know what I could do from here.
Where do I go?
I mean, at the time, I think I'm only 25. So I'm still a kid, right? You're still figuring it out. Right. And perfect timing. Everything happens for a reason. Andrew had posted something on like probably Facebook. And it was like, we're looking for a technical salesperson. And my husband, who's always been in sales, was like, you should do this. You should talk to Murph.
Which was so different than what you were doing.
That's why I said, I was like, I don't know about that. So I texted Murph real quick and was like, hey, can you send me the job description? And like, I'll think about it. Maybe if you got some time, you can tell me about it. He goes, no, just send your resume. Mm-hmm. So I did. And I went in for an interview the next day.
Were you nervous?
Terrified. Absolutely terrified.
Now, how many years ago was this? This was 7 years ago?
This was a while. No, much longer ago.
Oh,
this was, my gosh, almost 15, I think.
Oh, gosh. Okay. Got it.
So like, yeah, it was a big change. I think it is almost 15. So when I walked in for the interview, I interviewed with the VP.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's
he's
stressful.
like, oh my gosh.
Right.
And he's pointing at things like, what is this? Do you know what this does? What do you know about HVAC? I'm like, I'm going to be honest and straight with you here. Nothing. He's like, well, what do you know about variable frequency drives? I'm like, what is a variable frequency drive?
Hey, I've been around for 20, 30 years. I still can't explain how those things work.
I'll tell you my version. I'll give you my version because this is part of the journey. I would still consider to this day when I entered that company, it was very much its startup point. We were manufacturing starters.
ABB, okay.
I wasn't at ABB yet. This was long before ABB. So when I got there, we were doing motor starters and variable frequency drives. Okay. And like the motor starters is really where they got their start. I mean, it was a pretty sophisticated starter, which for those of you that know what a starter is, it's an on and off switch. And so I needed to sit and understand what these things were, what they were for, what was their purpose, who are we selling these to? And again, very startup. So there wasn't a manual. I wasn't getting any formal training because there was never formal training. So I spent the next 6 months after I was hired pretty much on the spot. I spent the next 6 months just eavesdropping, essentially, and sitting with the application engineers and asking them to like let me listen to calls when they were problem solving and working with my colleagues to listen into how they were talking with their partners. And my education just kind of came by practice.
Isn't that crazy? As you're explaining that, I'm thinking about the work environment today, how much we learn around each other. And it's so like...
I would have never, ever. I don't know how I could have possibly been successful, or at least that quickly.
I think it's a problem.
It's challenging. I think that there are certain things where I think that if you're established and you have the right resources, you can, but there's still a human element that you need. So it can't be
if you're new and learning.
Like, I don't know how it's possible.
Right. In my sales start, I would constantly go to the other sales guys. Yes. Hey, what is this thing here? And I'm like, help me with this.
Sometimes
and help me
just
with that.
Listening to how they talk to people.
Yeah.
We were joking about this when we were discussing. So one of the things that we're having this big build out for is how we're going to train salespeople within the Ambient family. And we were polling people and asking, what kind of training did you get? And one of the guys even said, well, I sat down and watched so-and-so work a room. Or I sat down and had dinner with so-and-so and watched him work with his customers. And it was very much that's how the education has always been. You observe and then you start tailoring it to your own style.
So if you're new, get back in the office. That's what we're saying.
Get in the office as much as you can.
At least a couple days a week.
For sure. I think especially when you're new, you got to learn the dynamics. But also there's an element of just making sure you make the right connections with people.
For sure.
You have to know who you have to go to. And that was the best part about being there was I knew all my technical questions. There were some of the apps engineers that wanted or had the time to help me. And then there were others that were like, I don't have time for this.
Yeah.
Which again, respect. I do understand.
I get it.
But I always knew I had a line in. I would have never figured that out had I not been in the office and gone and engaged with every single one of them multiple times to figure it out.
Yeah, I heard a stat the other day. I can't remember the exact number, but this guy was talking about, he called it a crisis of people not being in the office. And he said so many people, I think it was 30% of people meet their future spouses at work.
Yeah, I could see that.
So that's going away too. Yeah. So it's weird.
The human piece of everything is still really relative.
For sure.
I'm not trying to derail the conversation, but that's very similar to the concern around AI. So removing people just in general, removing people from people. How do we continue to understand how to connect and solve problems together? Not everything is easy. And sometimes you have to sit in a room and hash it out. That doesn't happen over Teams because then now you're getting distracted. I am guilty of that. So depending on the type of day I've got, I could be doing 6 things at once, which is why I've always advocated that your camera should always be on. If you're going to do a meeting during Teams, camera should be on so you can see, so you can engage. try presenting to a black screen.
It's the worst thing in the world. I've done it. And if you have a guest, and I'm talking to you out there who doesn't turn your camera on,
all of you,
and you invite somebody in to talk, and I can tell you and there's some occasions where you may be driving, if there's a safety issue or something like that, your kids in the background. I get that. Like there are exceptions, but I'm saying like 70%
yes,
should have it on.
Agreed.
And I view those types of meetings as an in-person meeting online.
Yes.
That's how I look at it. Like, would you do that? Would you put a bag over your head in front of somebody giving a presentation? Right?
It's almost, I'm gonna take it one step farther. It's almost like when you go and you give a presentation and someone's got their head buried in their phone the whole time.
Right.
Like,
Same
I know
thing.
you're not listening.
Yeah.
You might be like trying to listen, but you're not actively listening.
Right.
I do agree. There are circumstances, but I actually just had a perfect experience with this. We were going through reviews, and every review, with the exception of 2, everyone's been on camera. And this was the first review where a couple people weren't on camera. Right. And then someone approached me yesterday and they're like, hey, I'm so excited we're going to get things done. I had no idea who this person was in that moment because I'd never seen them. I've reviewed with them. I've had conversations with them. I've been back and forth via email for days, but I had never seen this person unless I went and did some cyber stalking to find out who they are. Right. And I hadn't had time to do that yet. Right. So when they approached me, I'm like, you're a lot taller than I expected. This is not what I thought you were going to look like. Right. That's the other piece. Again, if you're going to be working and collaborating with people, it helps to know who you're working with. Not that matters too much, but it's like the connection again.
There's a connection there. There is a human connection over the thing. And the other thing that came to my mind, and I love where this conversation, I love how these conversations just go and grow into their own thing, but like company culture, the more I've worked for a couple companies now in my career, and I didn't really understand how important culture was. Yeah. It is so important to. It is unbelievably important. Yeah, it's funny too, and it's not like just a person thing. It's directly tied to the business's bottom line, right? It's an ROI as well, right?
So in my past life at ABB, when I was responsible for hiring new regionals, I would take my time. Because like you could have this stellar resume and maybe you got great background, but if you're not going to fit in with my team, it's not going to work. We work together, and whether or not we're physically in person together or not, every chance we got, we would take. Right. But we were on teams. All of our cameras were always on. We were a well-oiled machine. We knew how to work with each other. And if I didn't think that you could, I'd move on. And I'd get questioned by HR, like, why did you pass this person up? And it would be very easy. Like, I don't believe that they fit our team's culture.
I would take the culture over talent that could be nurtured over time.
People over experience.
Yeah.
I know that sounds silly, but that's actually how I got started.
Right.
I had zero experience in the HVAC industry, zero experience with variable frequency drives, but something about who I was and the learning dynamic, the energy that I presented at the time, it was the right fit for what they needed to accomplish. Right. I was teachable. And I still do think that's a thing. I mean, you don't have to have all the experience in the world to be successful as long as you're willing to be taught and you fit the dynamic. Yeah. And not to mention, we've got to hire the right people for the right regions. Right. I can't hire the New Yorker to go and support Colorado. It's just not going to work out. There's a much chiller vibe in Denver than there is in Manhattan.
They'll stand out, that's for sure.
Well, yeah, sure.
I have a theory that the company culture's positivity is directly proportional to how many people have their camera on. Oh, I think there's exceptions to that. Yeah. I'm not saying that's all the time, but when you go to a meeting and there's the pre-meeting, people are joking with each other, they're having fun. You could tell there's a culture there. Yeah. And when you go and it's like completely dead, yes. No one's got their camera on and the guy's like, we're going to get started in 2 minutes. You could just, the feel of it, it's like, can you see my screen?
Again, it's the banter. Yeah, I think during COVID that taught us a lot too, because I remember trying to do like happy hours with my girlfriends. Like we all talk over each other in person all the time. Imagining all of us trying to sit on a Zoom call and like having sidebar conversations on Zoom. Right. Again, the energy was still there. It wasn't quite as productive, but the energy was still there because you can see each other. You feel it. You feel that connection a little bit. Still will never replace being in person with someone. Yeah. But I do think I have to say it is a fair and a really important value add that Teams and Zoom have brought to the industries is I believe in efficiency and being effective, and the amount of collaboration that you can do via Teams for the majority is phenomenal. We used to spend so much money traveling to get places if you had a national company.
Do you know that, and I had to look this up because I was thinking of, you and I were on this meeting in the morning talking about technology, specifically we're talking about AI, but I was thinking like 6 years ago, that meeting would not have ever happened on a computer. Today, it's like, you don't even think about it, but we would have had to travel, 40 people get together.
Or you'd be doing it in 6 different segments and you lose that back and forth conversation.
Right.
So like the best practices that just innately come out when you're sitting in a room with people or on a Teams call with people and people are sharing their thoughts and experiences right then and there. If you're not in that room 6, 7 years ago, you missed out on that.
Yeah. And do you ever remember being on a Teams meeting before COVID? I don't even think I knew what it was.
No, I don't think we even had it, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I think
it got big after COVID.
It was like, I remember, so I had left the industry for a little bit. So I did have like a hiatus, if you will. And I was during COVID, I was actually working for a health and environmental monitoring group. They're actually in the HVAC industry. I just wasn't in the HVAC segment. Gotcha. And that was the weird shift. We were selling respirator fit testers, quantitative respirator fit testers. In fact, we were the only manufacturer at the time that could do N95 testing quantitatively. Okay. And so typically, for those of you listeners who have ever done an N95 hood test, it's a horrible experience. You wear a hood, they spray these bitters. I mean, it's a physically, like, it affects your whole day.
Like, you're the test person?
If you are in healthcare or first responders, firefighters, police officers, you have to be annually fit tested on your respirators, whether it's the full masks, half masks, N95, doesn't matter. It's a standard.
Right.
And it's an OSHA standard. And so quantitatively speaking, it's more effective and accurate than the qualitative. It's also a better user experience, right? Mm-hmm. So like we talk about making innovative changes to things. Sometimes it's just making it more comfortable for people.
Right.
So anyways, that's when I was doing that. And I was you're trying to sell a healthcare apparatus or a support product over a screen. And so like I had my own lab set up basically. I had like a camera pointing down at it and I had my camera over here. And like it was such a weird experience. But the whole time, same thing. I felt like I was talking to myself.
Yeah.
Because we didn't know how to engage on these still.
It's hard. It's a challenge to present online because you can't feel the audience and you can't look at them and say, so what do you think about that? And you can kind of zone in on them. But yeah, it's crazy. It's
the dynamic changes. Again, I think there's a lot of value to it. I'm so thankful because it allows a lot more flexibility.
Yeah,
and
for
I think we have, especially bringing AI back into the conversation, smarter, not harder.
Yeah.
Right? So let's be more effective and efficient while getting the same stuff done. Now it opens up opportunities to go and explore more ways to get things done.
100%.
So this is one of those innovations that really improved a lot. However, at the same time, it took away. And that's where we've got to find the healthy balance. Yes, exactly.
There's a balance. And I would say too, like I love the AI tools. And I look at them as exactly that, a tool. Yes. Right? Resources. And it's like, I can say too, if you're worried about it, really just get in and try them. They're not,
absolutely.
They're not.
Simple questions like, did I forget to respond to an email? Check the email box. And all of a sudden it's like, you actually forgot 16. You're like, oh, okay.
Forgot 16. Let's hope you don't get to.
No. Well, during this call earlier today, I was tinkering around because I've started, and again, collecting what helps you be good at what you do. You have to find ways to utilize the resources available to you. So I actually have a OneNote that is called prompts, AI prompts.
Nice.
That I just like, if I see one that I like, I'll copy and paste it and I'll come back and play with it. If I write one that I think would be beneficial for somebody else, I'll drop it there. And so while we were all talking this morning, I decided, you know what? I actually do have emails that I know I haven't responded to. I didn't star them. I didn't put my flag to follow them up. Like there's a great resources built into Outlook that I'm just not proficient at using. But now this new tool, I can literally type into the screen, check my emails since December 1st, tell me if I've committed to anything and what that follow-up is, or if there are additional follow-ups, who's responsible for them, and let me know who I haven't responded to. And it gave me a table. It even gave me suggested quick responses so people knew I was still thinking about it before I gave back the actual response they needed. I mean, that was 10 seconds. We all have to get proficient at it, but I think that's the stuff, to your point. Those are the tools.
Right.
I don't get a personal assistant, so I'm turning AI into my personal assistant.
Maybe one
I
day.
haven't really made it that far yet.
Tony, you listening?
I could use a personal assistant. I think
you got to work somewhere more than a month, 3 months to get to ask for that.
I mean,
is my experience.
I know. We were just having that conversation because sometimes having help is not a bad thing.
Yeah, for sure.
But having the right help too. Like sometimes you know.
It's important.
So we're also learning how to work together as a team.
Yeah.
Once we figure out who's who in the zoo and who gets what done on the list.
Who's who in the zoo?
Who's who in the zoo?
I've not heard that before.
Really?
I love it.
I say it.
That's my takeaway today.
I say it probably at least twice a week.
Okay.
Who's who in the zoo?
Got it.
Yeah. You got to figure out how you're going to work together. And then we bring in someone else to do all the things that we're like, all right, that's definitely not my forte. That's something that can be taken off my, like, we shouldn't be paying you to do that part. Like, that's where having, again, even if it's an AI assistant, I think that's huge.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So speaking of the zoo, that might be a good segue into being a woman starting in the HVAC business.
It is a zoo. Well played.
Share some experience about that. For us dudes guys are kind of clueless, right? Like we don't, I think my personal experience is like I've been on some Zoom meetings before, some Teams meetings we're all women.
Yeah.
And I've said something and I could feel the mood had changed. And I'm like,
everyone's like,
what did I say? And it's not and I don't think most guys like,
it's not
they'll
malicious.
say things that'll make a woman be like, ugh.
It's like
not this again, but they don't know. We don't even know what we're doing. We're so dumb. We don't know. So help us.
You can read a woman's face most of the time when you say something, and immediately, like everyone's brains are firing up. You can't say that. You cannot say that. I have a what I would consider a popular and then an unpopular opinion about this.
Let's go.
So I feel incredibly fortunate to have had male leaders who believed in me as a person. They were willing to give me chances. And I think that everyone gets chances, right? I'm not just saying because I'm a woman. Like, I was given the opportunity to participate and prove myself within my team, just like my colleagues were.
Right. You weren't treated differently.
I wasn't treated differently.
The expectation was still there that we need to meet these goals and we need to do it. And you weren't getting the special treatment.
Exactly. I can't say that there was like, there's been a couple of times where I'm like, all right, well, that was because you're buddies and you guys go golf and have fun together. But like,
right.
For the most part, my environment has been pretty welcoming. However, there have been plenty of situations where when I was younger, I was too scared to say something.
Right.
And I'll never forget.
Are you scared now?
No, I don't, not at all. In fact, I dare you.
I think I knew the answer to that question.
Try me. I would love to see what happened. Actually, don't. Let's just keep this cordial.
Let's keep it professional here.
There was a situation where I walked in and presented a plan, and I got called little girl in front of colleagues and potential partners.
Oh, man. Even I know that's not good.
And yes, I was a child.
Was it like a listen here, little girl?
Yes.
That kind of thing?
Yes.
Wow.
And I was just like, I was so caught off guard and so scared and stressed.
Was this an older gentleman?
Yes.
Okay. Assume that.
And keep in mind, our industry is such a big, small world.
Mm-hmm.
So like everyone knows everyone to some extent.
Right.
So, that's also kind of embarrassing when these are your peers or potential customers or potential partners, and you're being belittled in front of everybody.
Right. And if it's a person of authority, it's hard to say anything. And the other people are like, they're not going to say anything.
I think, again, I don't like the double standard piece of it, but like I do think had it been like, you idiot to one of the guys, it wouldn't have hit as hard as being basically called an incompetent child in front of your colleagues.
Yeah, that's a different level.
And also kind of made the assumption that because I was a girl, I wasn't smart enough to like participate in this conversation.
Right.
So yes, I mean, it's, especially when it's a man's world and they're so comfortable and confident. I don't love that people feel like they have to change who they are completely. I'm not asking anyone to change who they are completely. What I am asking is to be considerate of the other person that you're standing across the way from. Sure. So like, maybe don't call me little girl. Maybe don't assume. There's actually this situation that happened.
And if you do that and someone tells you, look,
Yes.
you can't say that
That's
anymore.
what I would do
Listen to
now.
them too.
Exactly.
Even if it's not from the person you insulted, like you might have a coworker or, you know,
yes.
a relative
Advocacy.
that works with you and say,
Well, that's
yeah,
a
you
great
can't do
point
that.
because
Yeah.
there are, again, old school behavior. It's kind of like the locker room. And
Yeah.
so you're taking jabs at each other. And so I don't know. In that moment, it didn't feel like one of those situations. But
Mhm.
regardless, like had someone gone up to this person and been like, that wasn't okay.
Right.
That wasn't professional.
Right.
It was demeaning. The expectation is that they hear you. Whether or not they change is on them.
Right.
But all you can do is like take the opportunity to educate.
Right.
And I think that's like a big part of just making sure people are being educated.
Right.
I'm not expecting the world to change overnight.
No, you have some grace and like, okay,
Yes.
they don't understand
Exactly.
how painful that is. I'm going to explain it to them. And then,
There's actually another one. And being on the podcast, my very first podcast I ever did, it actually like changed the way I thought about my come up. Because sharing my story for the first time formally, if you will, I kind of talked through the whole history and I had these moments and it was just this light bulb went off of what those situations really were in reflection. So I used to take great pride. And the fact that I can remember taking great pride means it happened frequently where I would go and do sales calls with sales engineers at our manufacturer's reps. And I would get to the end of the day and they would be so surprised at how well I did. And in the moment, I'm like, I'm so proud. But now in reflection, I'm like, but why were you surprised? Like, would you have been surprised if one of my colleagues was out here and he was the one presenting? Like, would you have given him the same quote compliment? And I don't think that it was malicious in any way, shape, or form.
Right.
But I think again, that kind of goes with the evolving mindset of the fact that you're not used to seeing technical women in this industry. And so when you have one that's there, you probably have preconceived notions that they're not going to be as talented or as smart or whatever it may be. Joke's on you. We're very smart and talented. But again, I think that's part of the evolution because again, I don't think there was malice behind it.
Do you feel, this may be incorrect, but do you feel like being a woman and being in sales and more of what I call like an aggressive kind of, I don't know if aggressive is the right word, but like it's different than being in accounting.
It's
better
more
or worse,
intense.
but it's more intense.
Yeah.
But do you feel like as a woman in that role, you have this, I don't want to use the word ship on it, but you're trying to, you have to prove yourself more?
To
Is there any truth to that? I've heard that, but I don't know if that's true or not.
For sure. I think that kind of goes with any role of leadership or of like authority. But I think in the women, you have to remember, I actually came like in the second and third wave of this. Like there were plenty of women that were here before I got here and they had a much, much harder time than I did. And so oddly enough, sometimes they were not welcoming. They were actually the ones that were harder because they didn't think I earned my stripes the same way they did.
You didn't pay your dues.
Right.
Like we had to pay our dues.
Exactly.
And you're coming in here.
And that's where I have this, again, popular or unpopular opinion. I really do believe that it's the men that advocated and supported my journey that evolved their mindsets that really helped me emerge.
What an insight.
I mean, genuinely,
Yeah.
I have this, and I've mentioned it a couple of times, but I have this group, and I hate that I keep taking credit for this, but I genuinely cannot remember where I heard it or why I gravitated towards this statement. But I have what I call my board of directors. And these are mentors of mine that I've collected through my career. And they have shaped, advocated, prepared me, challenged me. But all of them believed in me enough to give me their time.
Yeah, you've talked about the importance of mentorship in your journey. What would you say to someone who, like, to me, it's important to have other people to run things by?
Yeah.
Because a lot of our decisions as humans, and mine for sure, could be a little bit clouded by fear and insecurity.
100%.
Should I go? Should I stay? I feel like I'm not being challenged. I want to grow more. But talking with people you respect, you know, they'll be like, well, of course you should talk to other people and see what's going on, right?
I think that mentorship is really interesting because I do love that big companies like an ABB really value mentorship. In fact, they created an entire program for it. And I love that because it gave the opportunity for people to meet. But I don't think that mentorship necessarily has to be so formal.
Sure.
I think it can start in the form of, man, that person's really good at that. Hey, I've got an idea. What are your thoughts? Or sometimes it's in the form of them immediately jumping in to help you before you derail yourself. So younger Holly used to put the same amount of concern or emphasis or I had no way of separating anything of importance out of each other. So like my priorities were all the same level of urgency. Like I had no sense of urgency. It could be that we forgot to ship a contactor or we completely screwed up the design of a cooling tower package, and I treated those the same. And it took one person being like, let's talk this out and let's talk about how they're both important, but they're not the same kind of important. Right. And learning how to use your resources wisely, but without stressing them out over silly things like a contactor.
And that's the good point of a good mentor is it's self-accountability. It's not someone who you're going to call. You know, we all got friends who are going to call and they're going to agree with you. Yeah, that's dumb or they're stupid.
Exactly.
You want the one that's going to say, well, actually, Tony, you kind of messed that up. And they're going to put you, the man in the mirror thing, right? They're going to hold you accountable. That's a good mentor, right?
None of that was formalized. It just kind of innately happened. And there's been people in the industry where I felt comfortable enough because they've created an environment where I felt welcome. I felt appreciated. I felt respected. And many of them actually work in the Ambient family. So I feel like, again, everything happens for a reason. It's the reason why I was drawn here. Sure. But there have been plenty of times where they're like, not your greatest choice. Yeah. In fact, I'm going to shout out to Tony on this one, Tony Tanzillo. The reason I even went up for the director role at ABB was because I hadn't even been there for 6 months. I think I was there for 4 when we restructured territories and a director role opened up. And I don't remember how we got on the topic, but I was like, no, I'm not going to put my name in for that. And he's like, but why? I'm like, well, I've only been here for 4 months. And he's like, I'm sorry, I don't think I understand. So you think that someone from the outside world is going to have more experience than you the 4 months you've been here. And that's what you think is going to happen?
And that right there is why we talk to other people.
100%.
Because we get rid of these insecurities and fear, which to me is 99% of the blockage is like, you want to do something and you're like, then here it comes. The flood of, you know, and I face this a lot with getting on camera and doing the content creation. I can't even believe,
like, one of these days we're going to flip the script and I want to hear your version. Because like this takes a lot.
I had a friend who was on our podcast once and he finished the podcast and he called me immediately. Oh my gosh, I should have said this. I should have said that. I said, that's fine. What's your experience? It's called ruminating. You're just going back and you're rehashing it. Yeah. He said, don't worry. I said, don't worry. That goes away over time. He goes, well, how long did it take for it to go away for you? I said, episode 101. Yeah, I stopped doing that because I realized I'm not going to say everything perfect. You just don't know, right?
But that's okay. I think there's okay. Like, I think it's okay to have a little bit of, I shouldn't say self-doubt, but just being really self-aware. Like,
for sure.
You don't, it's because you still care. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
If you're going to beat yourself up, use a feather, not a bat. That's what I've learned.
Like, that's a great one. I like that.
We're all just humans. I mean, we're all doing the best we can.
And I think that's the other part about the mentorship piece is that you've got to find the right person that's going to give you enough push.
Right.
You don't want to be babied. You don't want to, like, and that's the other part about being a female too, is if they weren't believing that you were incapable, they were oftentimes the other side of the spectrum is they were treating you like you were glass. Yeah. And like, didn't like, no, it's okay. Everything's fine. I'm like, you would never talk to this person over there like that. You have not yelled at me once, and I've watched you yell at every single person in this room, and I know I'm not perfect. So why are you not yelling at me? Right. So, and it wasn't like I wanted to be yelled at, but I do want to be treated like everybody else. Right. And so like that, again, coming back to my unpopular opinion, I think that as we continue to evolve, it took the amplification from strong and respected men in the industry to almost, I wouldn't say vouch, but support my experiences. Right. Challenging me to go up for these big opportunities, challenging me in the way that I choose to do things, writing letters of recommendation on my behalf. Like, that comes from them believing in me. Mm-hmm. So like, again, there is an advocacy part of this that really comes from those around you. And like, I want to be that for everyone, not just the young women coming up, but obviously that's where my heart lies. I want to see them be successful. Sure. But the young men too. I mean, I think that anyone coming up in our industry deserves an advocate and an ally and an advisor that's going to support their journey with the best intent for them. So, I mean, this is why I don't know if you know this about me, but when I started traveling a bunch, I didn't want my kids just thinking I traveled or I was just gone. They're little. Right. And so it seems silly to some people, but it's really like now we're 6 years into this journey of doing it. But my kids have met my colleagues. They see them on Teams and they come running in the room when they get back from school if I'm on a call and like want to say hi. They've been taken into our partners' homes and their families, and they see what I do and they see what's available. And then they're still little, so like it's fun for them. But as they get older, I will still continue once a year. They'll go on a trip with me. Nice. And as they get older, they'll come and maybe shadow and sit in a meeting and see what it is that we actually do, what kind of conversations we're having. Because again, they need to understand that this, like you and I started off as chemies, but I didn't even know this world existed, to be honest with you. I also had a really horrible misconception, and this is my apology to my husband. When he was in sales, he would be out there and he'd be drinking and having these fancy dinners and like going to baseball games, and he's, quote, working. And I'm like, that's why you're not home. And now I get it. I mean, part of it is that relationship building. And so that's what
I love the
Yeah.
My wife's done the to me a few times.
You have to go to the Tigers game.
Key West again.
Right. So I think, again, it's just exposure. And that's the same thing, again, bringing it back to the mentors. Like, if you don't know what it's out there, you're never going to know what's available to go try. And so I've been given these opportunities. I shouldn't be given, but I was allowed these opportunities, right? I was invited to the table.
Yeah.
So I want to be that for other people. I think that's, again, the reason why I'm at Ambient is these are the people that shape me, and I want to help shape the next generation with them.
Let's segue into a very important thing. 2 opportunities for that. The ASHRAE Women's.
Yes.
Am I getting, how do I say
Women
that?
of ASHRAE.
Women of ASHRAE meeting coming up, and then we'll talk about Women in Construction, the Ambient initiative. So let's talk about the Women of ASHRAE meeting. So
I was so fortunate last year in Orlando, or technically this year. So AHR 2025, I was asked to be on, I wasn't a panel, I was a presenter, the Women of ASHRAE event. And like there's elements that get done throughout the year, and certain chapters have their own events. But this is what's coming up in April is actually the 2nd annual version of this. National version. Right. So the Women of ASHRAE event that happens at AHR is a breakfast that they started putting on. I have to say the pride I had for the amount of men that showed up for the women. My boss, my boss's boss was there. My colleagues were there. My mentees were there. And I mean, and that was like the room. Like there were so many incredible women and men in this room for the Women of AHR, like of ASHRAE, the association, just to support us. And that was just, again, making the community stronger and making you feel seen and heard and giving you kind of pro tips on how to get through things. But what's coming up is we're going to be having a real technical forum. And it's not going to be exclusively just focused on being a woman in the industry, but truly teaching each other technical focuses or trending technologies or emerging verticals. So in April in California, we have the event coming up that Ambient's going to be a platinum sponsor of, which I'm so excited that you're going to be there too. Yeah, I can't wait. I think that there is so much value and it's going to be so exciting. Yeah. So like shout out to all the listeners. If you have ideas for questions, let us know. Yeah, please. Because I think we want to hear real questions. Like, again, to your point earlier, you don't want to go up to every woman and ask, what's it like being a woman in the industry? Right. But asking the right questions. So we've got the Women of ASHRAE coming up in April. And then again, if you're an AHR, the ASHRAE member, that's posted on the website. It's everywhere. We'll put a link. Hopefully we can put a link in for this. And then Women in Construction is coming up in March. So Women in Construction Week happens the 2nd week of March every year. And a lot of local chapters for PwC and even AHR will support events. But it's also Women's Month. So it's like we get the 1 week that we hold tried and true, but the whole month of March is Women's Month. I mean, again, I was talking with a girlfriend of mine. Her daughter dances with my daughter, and she's in the construction world. She's actually a baller, and she is part of a big GC in Detroit. And she goes in and she does all these presentations and activities and hands-on events with the local community, encouraging girls to focus on STEM and STEAM. And I mean, that's next level too. Yeah. But the WIC event is for anyone in our industry that just wants to feel strongly connected to the industry. It's everyone from sales to finance, HR, inside sales, architects. I mean, it's the whole gambit of the people that participate in the success of the HVAC industry. So Women in Construction Month is coming up in March, and the Ambient Women of Construction organization that has been established is putting on this incredible event in Boston, thanks to our partners up in Boston, APA. And I think this year we've already surpassed last year's number, and we're not done collecting names. So again, advocacy and support structure is really important, but Ambient really believes in it. And so to be part of it, I am thrilled. And like, you could not make me any happier if you had just even invited me to the event to begin with, let alone participate at this level.
I'm excited and honored to be invited to both of those events.
I know. I can't wait to see, like, genuinely, Tony, I cannot wait to see what you bring for this AHR event.
I just bring a camera.
Multiple microphones.
You are the stars, not me, that's for sure. But I'm super excited about it. And I think we covered some great stuff here. We're going to have a part 2 because we didn't even get to a lot of the
Absolutely.
stuff. But we can make this like a quarterly thing or
like
something.
It.
I don't know. But I wanted to
we have
also...
to come up with a clever chat name. We should do that.
Okay, we'll
take
do that.
submissions.
We'll do that. And before you go, I wanted to present you with... So just so the viewers know, this was the mug I was going to give to Holly, and I don't know if we could zoom in on that. Anyway, it says morning startup is what the mug says. #morning startup. I would not have offended her and given her the OnlyFans mug.
Are you kidding? It brings me such great joy. I love a pun.
It says #OnlyFans. Here you go. We got some hats and stuff for you too.
This is honestly
official.
Going to be like my pride and joy in my office. My kids will probably try to steal it and they'll never understand it, but...
Yeah, that's right.
Well, thank you.
Awesome.
I appreciate it so much,
My daughter
Tony.
said, Dad, you can't put OnlyFans on there. And I said, I think we're at that age where we don't know enough about it that it won't be...
But also, it's a fan wall and we're a bunch of nerds, so we think it's hilarious.
Exactly. So anyway.
I appreciate it. Thank you again, Tony. I really, really loved this. This was so much fun.
Really enjoyed it. Thank you.